Hello, CEO and board members. My name is Sam Peach, and this is my presentation on how to reduce gun-related deaths nationally. In the United States, many citizens are accustomed to the availability of purchasing a firearm, as it's outlined in the Second Amendment in the United States Bill of Rights. This gives most Americans the right to bear firearms, making it a relatively easy process to obtain one. Over the 20th century, as modernization kicked in and the legal system caught up, gun homicides dropped in rate drastically, that is, until 2014, as the original freewheeling days of gun handling came to a quick end. However, in the back half of the last decade, the United States has seen an epidemic of gun-related homicides that has more frequently appeared in the media as the scenes of mass shootings, such as the 2017 Las Vegas shooting or the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting. This has led many people from all stratas of life in the U.S. to look for solutions for this new uptick in firearm-related homicides. The first area that sees a lot of issues is the process a person goes through to purchase and own a firearm. The general process across many states is that a licensed gun dealer first has to follow state laws, which will all differ about identification requirements needed. Then once the person has done the appropriate identification steps, they are federally required to run a background check on the customer. This is the step that is a big hole in the laws for licensed dealers, as occasionally they will not run the check to save time or let the person walk out with the gun they are buying while the background check still runs for the next few days on them. This can lead to people having guns that are legally no longer allowed to have federally lost the right to, putting more guns into the hands of those intending to cause harm to others. There is also another way to obtain a firearm, which does not even require a background check or records of sale for guns being purchased. If a person goes to a gun show, they can walk up to any unlicensed vendor or gun enthusiast there and ask to purchase the guns. Since the transaction legally cannot be stopped, anyone is allowed to purchase a firearm without having to identify themselves, do a background check, or have any records of the purchase. This makes the process of obtaining a gun easy and anonymous, allowing those looking to hurt others a smooth way to get their weapon. Both of these issues are further exacerbated by the federal government legally not being allowed to make a universal national gun registry by law created in Congress, leaving the responsibility of safe gun sales to the sellers and men. The second area that sees itself intersecting more often with gun violence is mental health problems. Shootings in recent years have often seen themselves perpetrated by someone suffering from severe or acute mental health issues. As mental health records are hardly ever tied to an individual's background check, a person's state of mind is unknown when they are purchasing a firearm. This leads to a potentially unstable person who does still have the legal right to purchase a gun, being able to walk around with a gun and do with it as they wish. With mental health resources lacking in the United States, many people find themselves in unstable mindsets. But according to current laws, a person can only have it marked on their background check if they are indicated to be mentally defective or have been committed to an institution. Due to this, unless that person is witnessing having unusual behavior during a mental breakdown, they usually won't be marked with a predictor for violence on their background check due to mental health. This has made it so the system lets many people fall through the holes that should not be able to get a hold of a firearm. The objective of our proposal is to implement ways to help regulate firearm purchases so that these two issues specifically are addressed, where the process of purchasing a firearm doesn't leave as much of a gap where people can have firearms that are still waiting on a background check or didn't get a background check, and addresses the mental health issues currently in the system. Gun-related homicides are still a growing threat for the country that will require action in order to address it in the future. Our solution is designed to close off holes that let people purchase guns without background checks or identification and help prevent people who are mentally unstable from coming in possession of a gun. The federal government will have to change its current laws in order to make the gun purchasing process tighter. The first law that needs to be changed is the restrictions on the federal government from creating and managing a federal gun registry. By doing this, it would force gun dealers to go through the proper process for gun purchases, including waiting till an approved background check has returned in order to complete the purchase, hoping to close that hole. The second step the federal government will have to take is rewriting laws surrounding current gun shows and unlicensed gun transactions. Currently, many states don't require identification, a background check, or records in unlicensed deals, but that would all have to go away. This can be done by the federal government signing a law dictating that a licensed gun dealer is required to review every unlicensed gun transaction, whether it be private or at a gun show. This licensed representative would check each person's ID, the purchaser's background check, and make a record of the sale for the federal database. This would allow people to still have private purchases of a handgun, but the transaction will no longer be anonymous and instead pushed up to the federal government, deterring would-be murderers from illegally obtaining guns through the process since it was previously anonymous. Mental health is another area the federal government will have to make strides in order to help address a commonly associated aspect of gun-related homicides. Through the implementation of online mental health screenings to every firearm transaction, less individuals who are in an unstable state of mind will have access to a firearm until they've seen a licensed psychologist to get approval or a set amount of time has passed and they can take the mental health screenings again. This would be a reasonable middle ground to not severely restrict an individual's right to bear arms by leaving the process open to them but still prevent guns from falling into the hands of the wrong individuals. Hopefully, with additional funding of mental health resources, the screening will even improve in time to detect individuals who could use additional mental support before they come to purchase a firearm, so they don't make a mistake and end someone else's life with it. The timeline for our proposal would start in January to March 2022. It would start with a pilot in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he'd be promoting the seriousness of the proliferation of guns and gun-related deaths, and hopefully get NC's relevant departments to cooperate with us and implement mental health screenings and get gun dealers to participate in the process. At the same time, we'll be starting lobbying efforts in DC that will continue for 5 years in order to get this gun legislation passed. As the pilot in Raleigh continues, we'll expand statewide to the East Coast and hopefully nationally by 2026 through the public support and lobbying efforts convincing Congress to sign our solutions into law. The budget that we'll need for this is $420,000 a year. This is going to be made up by a PR firm we'll have to hire that will cost around $10,000 per month, and hiring a lobbying firm that will cost around $25,000 per month. A PR campaign of our size would end up being around $10,000 per month according to Axia Public Relations, but with this money, we would get people to engage with the public through social media, websites, TV ads, billboards, and setting up advocacy hubs at public events in local schools. The goal of the public info campaign is to inform people about what steps the federal government can take to lower firearm homicides nationwide. It'll also encourage the public to contact local politicians to push for this legislation. The second way that our solutions will be implemented is by using a system of lobbying in Washington, D.C. to persuade legislators to sign the solutions into law. A well-connected lobbying firm costs around $25,000 a month, and with it, they'll bring the efficiency of their networking and work. A lobbying firm would attend monthly stakeholder meetings, track legislative changes around the topic from committee to the floor. They would develop advocacy materials and help draft legislative language to be used to pass the solutions. Finally, they would also draft membership letters and call scripts for the public to reach the legislators' offices, and would meet with congressmen and their staff themselves. This ensures that the policymakers do not ignore the public pleas for help and are involved in helping to stop more Americans from being murdered by firearms. The board of directors should use public relations, advertising, online, social media, and lobbying to show the people the dangers of guns. Strengthen the background check when buying firearms, and add the mental health check to ensure people's safety after buying firearms. In the future, these plans and proposals will save lives, and we need to resolve it as soon as possible.